Hey, is that folk music that you play there? What is that? How do you call that folk music?
I think it was Studs Terkel who asked Big Bill Brunzi, did he consider his blues music to be folk music? And Big Bill says, well, never heard no horses.
Don't hesitate. It could be your ticket to a new tomorrow.
Well, I heard about a guy in Totowa on Bogart Street. You go to a corner and turn right just off of Union Boulevard. A guy named Joe is sitting there with his plastic table and his folding chair under his umbrella, relaxing in his yard. And it's hey ho, waving Joe. You've been waving since long ago. Out in the rain and the wind and the snow, say hi to waving Joe. Everybody singing, it's hey ho, waving Joe. You've been waving since long ago. Out in the rain and the wind and the snow, say hi to waving Joe. Well, folks started honking as they passed, and the rowdies thought it would be a blast to keep the neighbors up all night, honking all the time. Police blamed it on Waving Joe. They said he couldn't wave no more. All the papers and the TV crew rushed down to the scene of the crime. And it's hey ho, Waving Joe. You've been waving since long ago. Out in the rain and the wind and the snow, say hi to Waving Joe. Wave it for us, Al. Now Joe told the papers and the TV crew, police told me to stay out of view. They say that my poor neighbors complain that they can't sleep. But Waving Joe, he knows his rights. No law can keep him out of sight. He says I told the policemen all to take a beat. And it's hey ho, Waving Joe. You've been waving since long ago. Out in the rain and the wind and the snow, say hi to Waving Joe. So now with neighborhood peace in mind, the town's erected a little sign. And you can see it when you are passing through. And it says, attention! Feel free to wave to your neighbors. Please do not honk. Thank you. And it's hey ho, Waving Joe. You've been waving since long ago. Out in the rain and the wind and the snow, say hi to Waving Joe. Say hi to Waving Joe. Say hi to Waving Joe.
Well,
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
well, this is a very special edition of Horses Sing None of It, and sort of a collaboration with a TV show up in Burlington, Vermont called The Songwriter's Notebook. My name is Rik Palieri, and it's wonderful to be here with Ralph Litwin and Al Podber.
You got it.
And they're called the Fabulous Furry Harmonica Brothers. And it's a great, wonderful time to sit here and listen to these kind of old kind of sounding tunes, and with new words in it. And when I was listening to it, I was thinking about how you were really fulfilling that kind of idea of the old broadside, where they would tell the news. So that's what you were doing right there, is giving, you know, a little bit of an insight into a little bit of Americana, New Jersey Americana, about this guy Waving Joe. Now, you have to tell our viewers if, did you meet Waving Joe?
No, I did not meet Waving Joe. This was a product of the New Jersey Songwriters Circle. We pick a thing out of a hat, and it gives an idea for writing a song. And the idea was collaborate with somebody writing a song. So Dave Kleiner and I decided to collaborate, and I went over to his house. And sitting on his desk was an issue of Weird New Jersey magazine, and on the front cover was an article about Waving Joe. So we literally turned the article into a song. So it's the true story of what happened to Waving Joe.
Now, what about the music?
The music just came out of our heads.
Mm-hmm. But it's really based on the old traditional kind of almost like a ragtime feeling in there.
Well, I guess. Now, when I did this song in Philadelphia a year or so ago, I said, now I don't know if folks sit on their porch and wave where you come from, and somebody shouted out, in Oklahoma, everybody does it.
That's right. That's right. Up in Montana, you know, sometimes I've been up in towns in Montana where there were only like 9 people who lived in the town. And everybody waves in Montana.
But they have a song, the non-waving Joe, you know, for the one guy who doesn't wave.
The one, yeah, this is true. Well, in Vermont, they had an old story about, you know, the newcomers who come up and they move into the old house there, and every day they're waving, you know, as they drive by, and the old Vermont couple just sits there with their hands folded like this, and every day they wave and they won't wave back, and then finally, after about a year, goes, well, they've been here a year, let's wave. Accept them into the community. And over in Minnesota, did you ever notice how a Minnesotan waves? When they're driving down the road, I was touring out there, they lift one finger. You got to watch real quickly. You see one finger off their steering wheel, and that's a Minnesotan wave like this. Very kind of reserved people in Minnesota.
I must be from I do that sometimes. Maybe my soul is from Minnesota.
Now
there was somebody in our studio audience here who has driven past Waving Joe.
That's true. That's true.
Seen him. And there's another young lady in our audience who has a waver in her town, who they call, what do they call him?
The Waver Man.
The Waver Man. And there's a guy up on Route 15 who passed away a couple years ago named Wavin' Willie.
Wavin' Willie.
Wavin' Willie. And it's a real tradition here in New Jersey.
Waving Willie and Mr. Waverman.
Well, I think what's really interesting about it is that it's kind of sad when we come down to only a few people are waving, that we remember who waves.
Well, everybody waves back to them, though.
You know?
That's why they're doing a great service.
They are. They're ambassadors of sorts, old...
waving ambassadors.
Waving ambassadors, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about this wonderful CD. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I'm getting an idea of what your music is like live, so I know that I'm going to enjoy the CD. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Well, it's just a coincidence that here on the same week as we're taping the 350th episode of Horses Think None of It, Al and I are releasing this CD this Saturday at the New Jersey Folk Festival where we're booked. And we actually started on this, 2 years ago we did a demo.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we were invited on a radio show by Irene Trudell at WFMU, 91.1, WFMU.org. And she after the show in January of 2002, she handed us a digital audio tape of the show. And we listened to it, and Al said, you know, we could make an album out of this. There's a lot of good material on here. So then we really started seriously working on it.
Well, you know, one of the things that I'd like to do is have you do another song, and then let's talk a little bit about the origins of this program, because I'm sure that the viewers would be really interested in hearing how it all came together. Can we do that?
Sure enough.
Okay, Ralph, what are we doing?
How about in D. Plenty for Us All.
All right.
This is a song that was inspired by Buckminster Fuller and his work on the World Game, and it's dedicated to the Earth Charter, which you can find out at earthcharter.org. And I'll just let the song speak for itself. I haven't got enough money, enough time, enough love, enough energy to live out my dreams. When that's how I'm thinking, could drive me to drinking. But I'm just not a drinker, it seems. Enough is a thought I create in my mind about just what will satisfy. And satisfaction's a feeling that can seem to elude. We each know our own reasons why, but there's plenty for us all. I can hear the future call. Plenty to share, plenty to keep. When we could heal a fear so deep, we've clung to our belief that there's not enough, and it's made living so rough. Just to let it go, could that be so tough? I've seen all the research, and the conclusion is clear. There's plenty to go around for each living being in our Earth family. The answers are there to be found. An end to oppression and all poverty, pollution, a thing of the past. Our planet restored to its natural glory, and we'll find a peace that will last. 'Cause there's plenty for us all. I can hear the future call. Plenty to share, plenty to keep. When we could heal a fear so deep, we've clung to our belief that there's not enough, and it's made living so rough. Just to let it go, could that be so tough? Yes, when we believe, we act like it's true, and our actions will have their effect. When we believe there's not enough, we might hoard and compete. Persecution and wars could seem correct. But when we believe in a bountiful world, cooperation and sharing seems fine. We can see all the answers to our world's tragedies. And Lord, feels good in your mind. Yes, when I believe in a plentiful world, it's a thought that can take me quite far. When I believe there's enough, I could unload my stuff and hitch my dreams to a star. 'Cause there's plenty for us all. I could hear the future call. Plenty to share, plenty to keep. When we could heal a fear so deep, we've clung to our belief that there's not enough, and it's made living so rough. just to let it go. Could that be so tough? Thanks very much.
Happy Earth Day. Happy Earth Day
Happy Earth Day,
is
yeah,
right.
right around the corner. And
Yeah.
please go to earthcharter.org and check it out and sign up as an endorser of the Earth Charter. I think it's a really great organization doing great work.
You know, that song really kind of sums up, probably you don't even think about it, but it sums up a philosophy that's deep inside of you. That's why you're doing this program. Is, you know, you loved this music and you wanted to share it.
Exactly.
And you can't always wait for somebody else to start the ball. You know, you have to take that risk and jump. And that's what you must have done years ago. So how did it all come together, Ralph?
Well, I had the idea for a show, and I got a camcorder, and I went around to festivals where I was playing and where groups of musicians were, and I shot people, and I put together a demo, and I sent it around to all kinds of TV stations and tried to get people to put it on the air. Nothing. Then a couple years went by, and my friend Lou Gelfand, who's in the opening montage there with the horses, was invited to be on a cable TV show that was done at Video on the Go in Parsippany. And he talked with the director, and they tried to work out a date. And he actually was never on the show. But in conversing with the director of the show, the guy said, "Do you know anybody who wants to produce a music show? Because we're looking for somebody. The rock and roll housewife is leaving, and we need somebody to produce a television show about music." And Lou said, "I know just the guy." And that was me. And that's the way it started. And the ball just kept rolling from there.
Well, you know, I've known you, Ralph, for a long time. Back when I was producing the Festival of Blueberries, back in the 1970s, the late 1970s, I would see you with your banjo, and you know, you always had such a welcoming way about you, and the love for your music always came through. And so it was a natural kind of progression of taking that idea and bringing it to the next level. And now you've had, how many guests have you had now? You've had 350 shows, but on those shows, have you had multiple guests, or were they single guests?
Some guests were groups, and some guests were on more than one show. So I couldn't give you an exact count without going through some major calculations.
And the neat thing is, like what Al was just talking about, before the cameras weren't rolling, he was talking about how this is real community TV. It's the kind of things where you have to go with the flow. And you were telling that story. What happened one time with the backdrop?
Well, I was actually in this very stage, probably with this very scenery. We were on with, Ralph and I were in a band with Gibbony White. Actually, she introduced us, and of course she passed away in January. And we have some tracks on the CD that we made in the late '80s with Gibbony. And that's one of the things I really like about that CD, which is dedicated to her. But anyway, we were sitting here, we were playing, the band was called Harmony, Grits and Jam, and we were playing the old tune, Moving Day, the old ragtime tune, Harry Von Tilzer. And right in the chorus, when we were tapping our feet, and maybe that set it in motion, we hit the resonant frequency of the scenery or something. It was on our own Narrows Bridge or something. And the scenery just came crashing down on us. And of course, the show continued going. And
we had a really good laugh about it.
It's also very bizarre because the scenery actually kind of hit us off camera. And so you don't really see it on screen, but you hear us stop, and we're laughing and having a wonderful time. And anybody watching it thinks that these people are
crazy people.
They're a little weird, but they're having a great time. I wish we knew what was going on.
Ralph, can you think of any other memorable moments that you've had over the years that really stick out in your mind?
Oh, there's 1,000 memorable moments. To pick one, let's see. You caught me unprepared, Rick. I think just to turn the table on you, one of the most memorable moments was when you were on the show playing your Polish bagpipes and the bottom dropped off.
Yes, that was what, you know. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen on TV. That's my way of thinking. Well, you know, let's tell the viewers that it was from being on Ralph's show that gave me the idea that maybe this was something that I could do back at home. And I thought a lot about what you were doing here and how important it was, and how this type of, you know, television is for us. You know, I mean, we're not the NBC, we're not the CBS kind of thing, but this is our chance to shine. And the idea is we got to let that little light shine. You know, we got to put out that energy and try and provide our audience, our listening and viewing audience, with the best people that we can find. You know, give people a chance to get on there. And I think that's what the important thing is. And unfortunately, not enough people realize the power that you have. Because these days, so many people are watching cable TV that they're channel surfing. And they're not just staying on one channel. And so they're going to turn on and they're going to watch you. And if it's good, and it's good programming, they're going to stick with it. And I'm sure that, like me, you probably can't walk around without somebody coming up and saying, I remember when you had so-and-so on, and that was a great show. And it makes your heart feel good because your job is as being the facilitator. You know, how many times have we gone to a folk music coffee house and an excellent performer has only had a handful of people? With this kind of programming, you're giving people a chance to see someone in a different light, in an intimate light,
Absolutely.
that you wouldn't see on stage.
Yeah.
And you get a whole different view of them. And hopefully we can build our audience. Let's
Right.
not sit around and talk about, you know, go ahead, Al.
Well, I mean, I see it as not only building an audience. One thing about this music, it's a folk music. It's a music that people share, and that's the operant word, sharing. And this gives an opportunity for the greatest amount of sharing, because people can watch it in their homes, and people can watch it when, you know, wherever they are. They can take part in the sharing process and learn the songs and learn about the musicians. And that's why I'm so happy that Ralph's show has continued for all these years, and your show too, because it's a record, and you know, it's a tool for sharing, and it's also a record of what people have been creating, and it's such a valuable archive. You know, Ralph now has been able to put the shows on DVD, and they're available to people, and there's an archive.
That's right.
There's an archive of musicians in the New York, New Jersey area who are creative and sharing and making an important contribution to our culture. And his program is an archive of that piece of culture, and I think it's very important.
There's two things about that, Al, too, is the idea that, you know, think of all those shut-ins, all those people who have disabilities, who can't get to the shows. This is a way that they, too, can enjoy the music.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's a very important type of thing, and I'm sure that everybody in this room will applaud you, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, why don't you play a song?
Okay, let's tell people they can find out about this album at www.ralphlitwin.com.
All right, we can tell them that, Ralph.
And because we're running out of time, actually.
Okay.
We're getting down to the end
so
here.
they can get more information about this particular CD and other projects.
And if they want to go there and they sign on my email list, they'll get information about where we'll be playing. And there's a link to the TV show schedule there too.
Right. So everybody take a look and scout out and get a copy of this CD to enjoy.
Now this is a song that was inspired by a dream I had when I was a kid. And it was a very vivid dream, and I always remembered it as being significant. And the song tells the story of the dream. When I was a boy, one night in my sleep, I had a dream that made a story I could keep. I still don't know its meaning, or if it helps me cope, but the images in my dreams sometimes can fill my life with hope. And I see 2 red moons in a starry sky from a mountaintop of love. An arbor of 8 sides is hovering up above, hung with strange fruits of seasons, the glory I can see, and a circle of monks with big bald heads, communing cosmically with me. When the dream began, I was shipwrecked on a shore with a group of people, there was 10 or more. Living in the caves of the cliff that faced the sea, I strolled around the island, exploring, feeling free. There was a favorite hilltop where I loved to go. One grand old tree, a grassy field, a place I grew to know. One day I found a pendant there on that grassy ground. Unique design and metal was this object that I found. I knew that this pendant had not been there before, nor did it belong to anyone from our group on shore. After all this time here, I had now been shown a mysterious message that we were not alone. Play it again while I remember the words. I returned there often in the hopes that I would find the secret benefactor whose pendant made a sign. Then one night it happened, as I waited patiently, the visitors glided up a hill in a circle around me. And I saw 2 red moons and a starry sky from a mountain top of love. An arbor of 8 sides is hovering up above, hung with strange fruits of seasons, the glory I can see, and a circle of monks with big bald heads, communing cosmically with me. And I had the boy, felt this feeling fast, maybe hoping to learn its meaning, or maybe make the feeling last. It's strange what feels important, and the way things seem. Perhaps one day I will return in life or in a dream, and see 2 red moons and a starry sky from a mountain top of love is hovering up above.